So I shamelessly titled this presentation as Ivy's useful stop for CDM alumni. So it's really like, I just talk about with Danny. It's like, I was thinking, as I was preparing this presentation, I was thinking myself 7 years ago when I was, just about to finish the summer project and I started thinking about, okay, what do I want to do in August? Do I want to continue pitch my own individual project, or do I want to, go outside to look for a job, et cetera, et cetera. So I thought about it, and I figured out actually there are 2 points which I felt the most confused, or in a way, the information I can share with everybody here, and hopefully that would be useful. So before we start, let me just introduce myself a little bit. And so my name is Ivy, and obviously the picture here is the person or the bear. And my current position, I'm currently working in EA, Electronic Arts, and my title here is UXR Manager, and I'm actually managing UXR team in EA is a centralized team. So the benefit of it is I get to manage and interact and work with all the EA game titles. So which is super awesome, the studios from Barrier, from EA Sports, and from also lots of like unannounced project, and I'm the manager for that department. And another official title I have, I'm currently during my nighttime, I'm teaching in Vancouver Film School, which is in game design program and digital design program. And so a little bit about my personal background. I'm originally from China, and I know just of my understanding of it, and just seeing the names on the screen, I know some of you are also from China. And so basically I came to Canada because of CDM. So I came to Canada 8 years ago, and right now I'm living in Canada. So I'm like a Canadian panda in a way. So that's my personal background. And about my knowledge background, so as Danny's introduction, I'm actually pretty much my skill set and experience covering from UX design, UI design, and user UX research here. And when I was in China, I worked in broader technology industry. When I say broader technology industry, I mean like designing website or designing mobile app. I still remember when I just started working, we didn't even have a smartphone yet. So we basically only started working with UX and UI for website. And as the first iPhone came out more than 10 years ago, and we started developing, okay, how to do the UX and UI design in mobile. And after I came to Canada, which is after I graduated from CDM, somehow I found a job as a UI designer in gaming industry. So that is the beginning or start point when I started my career as a UX design, UI design, and right now UX research expert in gaming industry. So that's my background. And as I mentioned at the very beginning, here is actually the 2 useful thoughts I like to share with everybody, because I just think about when I was at your point, when I was younger, those are the 2 major confusions or questions I always ask myself or always trying to figure out. And it's really great that I got a lot of support from CDM, which is from Dennis, from Larry, from Patrick, from Laura, if you ever take her class. So after that, I just want to think about how can I actually also give it back and to share this kind of experience and knowledge with the students right now, which is my alumni. So the first topic I want to touch on is really just trying to have some foundation or basic understanding of how UX and UI work in game development. And the second question I'd like to touch on is really just sharing my own story or sharing my own journey. What happened, or how did I actually start my career after CDM as an international student? So let's jump out to the first point. How does the UX and UI work in game development? So let's start with something you might already know, right? How does UX and UI work in technology development? So when I say technology development, it really means website development or mobile phone development, right? In order to just go through the definition at a general level, whenever we talk about UX, we're always thinking about like a flow chart, wireframes, user stories, user flows, and et cetera. So whenever we mention UX, when we design the website and the mobile app, we are always talking about a designer, right? UX is a designer in a way. And we also talk about UI, which is the user interface. And sometimes people would think about, or we also think about, oh, UI probably is more leaning towards to UI artist, right? So UX designer, the designer figure out the design you want to do and pass it to UI designer or UI artist to make the wireframe prettier, right? I'm just trying to simplify the concept here. So that's actually how UX and UI work in technology development. So here's a question. How UX and UI work in game development? Because every time when we talk about the games, right, we always have a UX, we always have a UI as well. But at the same time, we also have a game designer. So you see in game development, it's no longer, we have two type of different designers. One is a game designer, one is a UX designer. So that actually create a lot of confusions in gaming industry. Like we already have a game designer. Why do we still need a UX designer? What's the difference between those two designers? Not too sure you have a thought about that question. I can feel confident telling you this is actually the phase people from gaming industry. People tend to get confused about this as well. So you are not the only one feeling confused about it. So let me just talk about how does UX and UI work in game development? So now we are able to look at, okay, there are three different areas: game design, UX design, and UI design here. How does that work is we don't have that kind of a competitive relationship with one the other. We don't have that kind of way saying, I'm right, you're wrong. No, it's definitely not. It's more working like a team. So let me go a little bit deeper about it. What does a game designer do? Game designers, whenever they're designing the game, they're designing or they're creating the rules for the game. How to win this game, how to lose this game, right? Or further, how the physics in the game gonna work. Can all the characters or humans can fly in the world, right? Or can be like do we have to be human in the game? Do players have to be human in the game, like Animal Crossing? So those are the rules game designers are creating. And another job game designers are doing is that they are providing the options for players. Right? For example, for Fortnite, players act as a human, having like different guns, and the game designers also design different game modes or different events or different seasons for players to play. So that's actually the option for players to choose whenever they play a game. And in the moment to moment, players can always try to think about, okay, do I want to shoot this guy or I want to shoot this girl, right? So those are the options the players have. So that is actually the areas the game designers do. But what about UX designer? The jobs UX designers do is first trying to communicate game designers' job to players as clear as possible. UX designers is how he's communicating the rules and the options to players, so players can understand, okay, these are the rules and these are the options I have in the game. And on the top of that, as we talk about players have different options, which actually means people constantly need to make the decision, decide on coffee or tea. I have two options, then I need to make the decision whether I want to drink the coffee or tea. So in order to help players to make an easier decision, which is UX designer can also make a recommendation for players. I would recommend you to drink the coffee, right? Because it tastes better, it's warm, and it's, et cetera. So that's really just to help the players to make a better decision, which is a better experience. And the UI designer's job here is you can imagine after players fully understand the rules and the options they have, and after players are able to make the decision, they want to have the tools in order to implement the decision they are trying to do, right? Like, for example, I decide to shoot guy one, then I need to implement it by controlling my controller and to shoot this person. So that is actually falling into the UI design area, the user interface. how can I improve my behaviors in order to interact with the game? So that's the general concept of game design, UX design, UI design. And I can guarantee your face is probably still like this, even though I cannot really see you. So let me give you some examples, help you to understand it. I'll pick a super common Canadian common example here. Like everybody during the winter time, they need to get snow tires. So what happened, just to catch up the people from outside Canada, really what happens here is because Canada, some areas can be super freezing and super cold, snowy. And so there is a rule given by the government that during this amount of time, all these cars must equip the winter tires. And I get it, right? So I recently just got a new car. I'm super happy. And I got this rule. I said, okay, right, I need to get a winter tire in order to follow the rule. So what happened here is I came to Canadian Tire. This is what I saw. So you can see I have so many options. I can see the wheels everywhere and the tires are everywhere. And if I come closer to the counter, somehow Canadian Tire is trying to be thoughtful, right? They list the top 5 snow tires option for me. But to me, I'm the new driver. I don't know that much about tires, right? As you can see, even though they narrow down 5 different options for me, giving different names, and sometimes you can see they also have that kind of a chart and an icon, which is very much like RPG game character information. It's still really hard for me to decide or to choose what tires do I want or do I need actually, right? And luckily enough, I met the salesman, Ryan. This is actually not awkward at all. I was asking, I'm preparing this presentation. Can I take a photo? He said, yeah, sure. So the salesman from Canadian Tire, he actually helped me, which is me a while ago, actually. You can see my hair was still long. So really what he did was he went through the options with me, communicating those are the options I have. By first marking, if I were you, I just want to let you know the first 3 options, they're on sale. And the rest 2 are at a regular price. I said, okay. So that's the first thing he did. And the second thing he did was he told me, the first tire is out of stock. It's a good tire. It's really good. If you want to order it, I can actually place the order for you, but you just need to wait another month or 2. I'm thinking, well, I planned like a ski trip this weekend. I don't want to wait that long. And here comes the third step. He said, so now you have 2 options left, the second one and the third one. The qualities are very similar with one the other. They both are really good brands. But the difference is the second tire is actually $70 cheaper per tire compared to the third one. So really you can see, he just communicated 3 different things to me, which is helping me to make the decision by recommending, maybe you should think about the second one. So as a user, as a client, it's very easy for me to make the decision among all the options and understanding what the options I have. And the next thing I did, okay, I made my call, which is, okay, I'm gonna go get the second one because it's cheaper, the same quality, is in stock, it's available. And I would feel super dumb if I don't buy the one on sale, right? Just like whatever the logic customers have. So I made my implement my call. Can you hear me? Okay. And I implement my call by just using my card and complete the transaction. And ta-da, I got snow tire. So from this example, let's come back to look at this chart again. We talk about game designers are creating rules and options. We talk about UX designers are creating, like communicating and making recommendations for players, for users. UI design is actually the tools, creating the tools for users. So in this story, the traffic rule about they have to equip winter tire is actually part of the game designer's job. The fact that we have so many snow tires options are also falling under game designer's job. And in this case, Ryan is actually the UX designer. First, he helped me to communicate what options I have. And the second, he helped me to make the recommendation. It really just helped me to make my decision a lot easier. What winter tire I want to get. And in this story, the credit card, the POS machine is actually the UI, user interface. Because you can imagine, once I make the decision, I want to get my tires. It's not just stopping at the point I made the decision. Right? So you can imagine from this story, without the rule or the options, there is no even the point for me to even start this story. So that's why it's so important for game designers to do their job. You can also imagine without Ryan, which is without UX designer in the story, I'm gonna be so confused about what tire I need to choose. And I might end up spending way too much time in it and without even getting the one which is really the best for me. So you can see the experience is not as bad, not as good without Ryan. And you can see from this story, without a UI designer, I cannot just make a decision without guiding any tires. That is also frustrating as well. So in this way, that is actually why I called the relationship between all three designers are not competing. We need to create a cohesive teamwork, which is just like that. But we're talking about making games, right? Enough about snow tires, enough about Ryan, enough about Canadian Tire. How can we actually use this model to talk about game development? Still the same thing. Game designer is doing designing rules and providing options. UX designers are communicating with the players and making recommendations. And the UI designers are creating the tools for players to help them to implement the decisions they just made. I guess most of you, or at least play or know about this game, is Clash Royale. It's made by Supercell and launched about 5 years ago, and it's still one of the super popular mobile games globally. So about 3 years ago, they actually launched a new feature called the 2v2 touchdown challenge. So which is, you can see, I'm super highlighting this feature right now. That's why I'm talking about it. What is actually the reality for mobile players? Whenever they log in the game, this is actually what they are seeing. You can see this new feature already being buried in the many screens already. Without getting into too much details, on the first screens, the options the players have are they can either choose to play one-on-one, 1v1 arena battle, they can pick a 2v2, they have different card decks, they have different arenas to play, etc., etc. Those are the options people have. And on the second screen, people can choose to play different events, different challenges, different tournaments. And on the third screen, people can choose different cards to manage and choose different battle decks, etc., etc. And you can see this is a lot of options for users, for players to go through, to understand. And now even mention, I'm only taking 3 screenshots out of the entire game. So you can see the options in that game is way more. It can be very, very easy for players to feel overwhelmed. And sometimes they are not even aware of those options are available. So here comes to the struggle for players in game. What should I do? Right? What is the best option for me? There are so many. Is there anything that existing but I'm not even aware of? But don't panic. Why? Because we have Ryan. So Ryan's job here is really, I'm trying to just filter out the art here. You can see players has one option which is being highlighted here as a quest. If players click it, they actually go to the second screen so they can see on the top of it, there's a 2v2 touchdown request. And after players click that, they are able to go to here right away, the third screen right away. There's another option to communicate and making the recommendation for players. One is, another thing is really just, there's a new event being marked, highlighted here. So once players see it and they click it, and then they can jump to the third screen right away. So you see that is actually how Ryan, or rather UX designer, is trying to communicate the options for players and making the recommendation for them. And you can see after players are aware of the options and make the decision, okay, I want to check out the new event, then here comes to UI designer's job. Okay, they can just literally using the finger to click the button and they go to the screen they want to go. So let's come back to this chart again. In the Clash Royale example, the game designer is designing the rules and options, which is really just all the options we have and how we can actually win the game and how we can level up the arena. And the UX designer's job, which is Ryan here, is really just trying to communicate the options, communicating the rules for our players, and also making the recommendation to help them to make the decision in the game a lot easier, therefore having a lot better experience for them. And the UI designer's work here is as long as the people make their call, they can just go interact with it and make it happen, come to the screen they want to, play the mode they want to, manage the card they want to. So this is actually the relationship between UX design, and UI design. So as we called, it's a teamwork. And we definitely need those two different types of designers in the game development. So that's actually the conversation I'd like to share with you. But before we finish it off, I want to ask a little bit higher level, why it's different? Why in technology industry, we don't need a game designer? We only need a UX and a UI designer. But why in gaming industry, we actually need a UX designer, UI designer, and we also need a game designer? Why? Have you thought about it? So my take on this, my interpretation on this is really whenever we are designing technology, as you can see, technology is actually more like a AR, right? If you think about the bank app you're using, you're living in this current reality or this current world. So the website, the mobile app you're using is really just something to make your current reality better. It's just like AR. But for games, it's more like a VR. Because whenever you are playing a game, you are actually in a brand new world. You entered a brand new reality, which is no longer the current reality you're living in anymore, right? You get to become different, like a raccoon or a red panda in Animal Crossing, which you will never gonna be in this current reality, right? And in Minecraft, everything is in pixel, and you need to actually accumulating all of that, which is you never get to do in this current world. So that is actually the reason why in game development, we need a game designer in order to create a brand new world and create a brand new reality for players. And for the rest, UX and UI designers are doing the same job, just as in the technology industry. So yeah, basically that's actually the end of the first topic or first useful thought I'd like to share with you, everybody here. The differences between UX designer, UI designer, and a game designer in gaming industry, and what do they do? And hopefully that would give you a little bit better understanding and thinking about what is actually your real passion as a designer, how you want to develop your career. Thank you. And so here we come to the second topic. How did I actually start my own career after CDM? Because just so you know, all this information and knowledge, I had no idea at all when I was at your time, right? So how did I even get to accumulate all this experience and all this knowledge? And most importantly, how did I even get to do the job I really enjoy doing? It's basically my dream job. Like when I just came to Canada, and I was always dreaming about doing the job I'm doing, but at the same time, I had no idea how could I achieve this. So let me share my story first. So I said, you know, I'm a Chinese. And now I'm in Canada. So when I was in China, I can just be honest with you. My English was terrible. And you can tell, like, as I'm talking right now, my English is still not perfect, but good enough, right? Good enough to communicate and everything, getting my job properly. So when I was in China, I got my bachelor degree in interaction design. Of course, in Chinese, right? I learned everything in Chinese. And when I was about to graduate from my bachelor degree, I was so confused because I knew I could draw, I knew I could do some graphic design, and I also had a passion about animation. I also like about maybe getting into like advertisement industry because that's also cool, right? Thinking about different branding like strategies. But I was so confused about what should I do. Really what happened there was just, okay, maybe I'll just start applying jobs, right, to see where I actually could land. So luckily enough, I was able to just start a job as a UI artist because I know I could do graphic design. So I started working as a UI artist in a technology company where I actually just work with a UX designer and just making the website wireframe a lot prettier, make it look good and send it to the users. And pass it to the programmers implement it and pass it to the users. So at that time, okay, I think I like it in a way, but somehow I realized the more I work with UX designers on my team, I like that job better. It's like, actually, you know what? I never heard about a job called a UX designer when I was at school. And as I'm working with them every day, I like doing their job a lot better. So you see, this is actually something I actually learned in my job already because I didn't know UX designer exists at all. And I didn't know I would like about working as a UX designer neither. It all happened once I started working first, whatever the job, even though it's not my dream job, but at least I started working. And after that, I also got confused. Finally, I realized I like working as a UX designer and I made my career change. At that time, I couldn't transfer as a UX designer in my current company. So I actually found a UX designer in another company and I work as a UX designer. At that time, I also got confused again because I finally got to work as a UX designer. But every single day when I was chatting with my leads, my seniors, we are always looking at talking about, how Facebook does things, how Twitter does things, how YouTube does things, right? And I was like super curious because at that time I was still in China. I was like, okay, how North American does things differently? Why are we constantly talking about the products over there? Why are they better than us? So at that time, I also got confused. So you can see a big question mark. And that was actually the reason why I came to Canada and started schooling in CDM. So of course, at the very beginning, as I mentioned, my English was terrible. I still remember the first semester when I hung out with my classmate. Every question people ask me, I had no idea what they were saying. I just nod and say yes. And until at one point, people just mocking me, hey, Ivy, are you just always saying yes, right? So at that time, of course, I couldn't be more confused. Like I couldn't even understand properly what people are talking to me. So, and that was another biggest challenge for me is that I needed to find a job after the school. How could I find a job with this kind of a communication and this kind of a language? I already knew I like doing a designer job. I already knew that. But with this kind of English level, I couldn't find any designer job like that because as a designer, we need to communicate our direction. We need to communicate our design. We need to make sure the team can work together and following the design direction we are approaching. And I couldn't do that at all when I was at your situation right now. when I was about to graduate from CDM. So what happened there was I took one step back. I started searching for jobs as an artist because as an artist at that time, yeah, I could understand when people talk to me about the design request. And really my job was just as long as I can draw, I can deliver the graphic, then I can secure my job. I can get my job done properly. So I took one step back. And it's just lucky enough, that was actually the time I started in gaming industry. Because before that, I never thought about myself would work in gaming industry. I was still thinking about, oh, I had experience in technology industry. Maybe it's just making more sense to continue doing that. But it just happened. The first job offer I ever received was from gaming industry. I was like, you know what? I made this far, right? I came all the way to the other side of the earth, and this is what I get. I'll just take it. At least to get my foot in the industry and to see what's gonna happen next. And after that, as you can see, when I was working as a UI artist in the first gaming industry job, I started practicing my language a lot better. Right? I know how to communicate with the people at work in English. I started getting to know the cultures here. And very, very soon, the CEO actually realized, hey, Ivy, you are not an artist. I said, no, I'm not. You're a designer. I said, yes, I'm a designer. And you are actually a UX designer. I said, yes. So he actually made a special call, which is I became the first UX designer in the company I was working in. Just like the story I just talked about at that time, people were so confused about why do we need a UX designer? We already have a game designer. So you see, from this transitioning here is really, at the very beginning, it's okay to be not perfect. It's okay not to do the dream job right away. And also it's okay to take one step back because the gold is eventually gonna shine. As long as you are able to catch up the short barriers around you, then people gonna recognize your values eventually. And so just starting from there, you can see the story is really, I became the first UX designers in the company, and I started accumulating the experience, introducing the way of thinking, user experience design thinking into gaming industry. And therefore, I was able to navigate, change to another company to continue introducing this. And right now, positioning myself into a leadership and a management position to help the entire company. How can we develop this area? And therefore, I'm doing my dream job. So I just want to highlight something from my story here. First, it is totally okay to be confused. It's totally fine. Don't panic. It's totally fine. But really what matters is to set up a proper expectation because the journey will never be straight up. How can we actually get to do our dream job right away if we don't even know what's gonna be our dream job yet? If we don't really know the things we don't know yet. It's never gonna be like this, but instead, maybe just take a little step here and there, right? You might take some detours, but as you are taking the little detours, you are also understanding more the things you don't know. And therefore you can turn those areas into the areas, the knowledge you actually know. Right now, just don't narrow yourself down because there are just so many things you don't know that you don't know yet. So which actually means be focused, but at the same time be broad. Be broad is really just don't narrow yourself down, discovery, or be okay, be flexible about the things you don't know that you don't know. At the same time, be more a little bit focused. What does that mean? I'll give you an example. So there was one student in VFS. My class is actually gonna last like 2 months. So every single week, he came here, asked me, first week, he asked me, hey, Ivy, it's so cool. I want to be a UX designer. How can I be? So I gave him some career advice. He said, awesome. So I can actually, look into that. And the second week, I don't really know what happened there, but he came over asking me, hey, Ivy, I want to be a data scientist. How can I be that? I said, okay, you can actually look up this website and talking to this kind of people to get it. I said, okay, I'm going to look into it. And third week, I have no idea what happened that week. He came over. Hey, Ivy, I changed my mind again. I want to be a gameplay programmer. How can I be? So that's actually what I mean by be a little bit more focused, right? If you want to be a designer, be a little bit more open about, okay, you want to focus on, like you want to be a maybe different type of designers, but at the same time, be focused on maybe being a designer, right? And when I say being broad, it's also just to be more flexible about the industries or the companies you want to be. Just like my example, I never thought about it. I wanted to work in the gaming industry, but I got the offer. I'm okay with it. I'll just take it. And I can see, like, I still remember some of my classmates were like, I only want to find a job in console AAA gaming company, and to be this particular job. Basically, you are narrowing your, what did I call? Sorry, I need help. My translator doesn't have done this. What is that called again? This one.
Funnel.
Final, yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. So basically, you are narrowing down your finals here, right? You want to make sure the most of the finals are broad enough. Don't just set up so many different challenges or constraints for you. Has to be the AAA company, this job, on this team, on this game, right? Just start with wherever you can get and work your way around it. Another thing, it's about to be a team player. Just like I said, when I talk about the game designers, UX designers, and UI designers, it's really not about who is better, who is the smartest one in the room. It's more about how we are able to collaborate together as a whole, as a team. And here are the 3 key philosophies. I cannot tell you exactly what to do, but at least I can share the 3 key things with everybody here. One thing is about to be respectful. The second, be nice. The third, be responsible. What are those mean? Be respectful to people around you, right? Like, don't just treat other people like disrespect other people, because everybody contribute a very unique perspective and contribute very unique values, regardless which countries you are from, what background you are from, and how many years of experience you have. It doesn't matter. As long as we are here, we are individual human beings, we already contribute a very unique perspective and value to the team, to this world already. So be respectful to people around you. Also be respectful to yourself, right? This is actually, I was guilty about it. Like, when I just started working, I was very not confident at all. I always question myself about, okay, what kind of value I can bring, or what kind of, unique, different values or unique perspective I can bring. So that also happened to ourselves as well. Be respect, acknowledge others' values and perspective. At the same time, respect yourself as well. Right? We definitely want to balance out until we are able to find a very good boundary, a very good balance to make yourself comfortable. Don't feel bad about feeling bad. Don't feel bad about feeling confused. Don't feel bad about you're having this kind of challenges. But at the same time, be responsible about other people. The second, be nice. I cannot tell you how to be nice. You know how to be nice. Everybody knows how to be nice. It's not a skill we need to develop. It's options, whether you want to be nice or not. I can tell you how to be nice at every single moment, but I can tell you the world is super small. The industry, not just the gaming industry, the technology industry are tiny. Like I could easily just reach out to someone from Europe in this company and find someone we already know in common. So this is super important. You want to be nice about about the people around you is because you want to work with people as a team to solve the problems. You don't want to be the problem for other people. And I still remember when I just got the first job in Canada and actually went back to China. And when I was actually coming back, my dad was driving me to the airport. So he actually told me, Ivy, congratulations that you're about to work in Canada. You're working as an artist, right? But there's one thing I want to let you know. There are so many artists in this world. They don't have to work with you. But why do people want to work with you? Have you thought about that? Can you actually be a team worker, team player together to create the best experience whenever people work with you? And I still remember he said that, and I can tell I will remember forever in my life. And now I'm passing it to you. It's really, there are so many designers, there are so many artists, there are so many programmers, they're extremely talented, but why people want to work with you? So here comes to the thing, be nice. You know how to be nice. And the third thing is to be responsible. One is to be responsible for yourself, your time, your energy, your money, right? If you feel like this is wasting your time, I'd rather you just don't attend, and instead spending the time more responsibly to really invest yourself. Because at the end of the day, you are the one who are being responsible for your life. And also be responsible for your work. Are you okay with this is the work you're delivering? Are you okay with putting your name on this work? If it's not, then maybe just try a little bit until you feel comfortable putting your name on it. I'm not too sure if you ever heard about this. I can actually frankly say I feel like I was extremely lucky. And if you talk with lots of people who are really happy about where they are, they're probably most likely going to say they were really lucky as well. But I want to tell you, people who ever were very lucky, they will be lucky again. It's just like this graphic. Being lucky is not just, we're lucky. It's really just we actually put the effort in. We're actually climbing this mountain and we receive the return. That means we're lucky, because there are lots of times we put the efforts in, but we don't receive the return. But at first, we need to put the efforts in. We can't just sit here and start daydreaming about, oh, I want to be like that, and without putting any effort and action into it. And so that's it. So those are really the two things I really, really want to share with you, or rather, I want to share with myself the 7 years ago, 7 years younger Ivy. And I really hope that would also help be at least helpful or useful for everybody here. And I know we still have a little bit more than 10 minutes left, and I want to open for like questions. And I'm seeing some chat here. Yeah, thank you. And is there anyone who have questions? Anything can be about me or about presentation, about, yeah.
I'm going to jump in, actually. Why not? So I'm remembering your cohort quite fondly, and I remember like Buo or Orbits and Roadhouse. So James Hursthouse, the game company, I think that took the chance. He was very keen on your project and said, you should step into game design. And that was new to you as far as, and then creating that opportunity in the company to moving from art, that step back UI, to actually being the UX designer. Yeah, that's not luck. You put in the effort. You took the chance and returned to doing what you could do, the art skill, and created an opportunity for yourself. Now you're in a position where you're hiring people, right? Is this So you've managed to kind of create I'm liking the mountain motif behind me now too with your last slide. You were able to get to a place where you're now responsible for many game titles and actually hiring people. So your advice, this has been amazing. So it's just, we're super proud of you. And it's, I want the class to have a chance to ask you some questions there too. And I also want to see if there are others and even on the call that would like to have a workshop in the fall, or, you know, we can go a little bit deeper into what it means to do UX for game design, or have an art test or something like that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. And also just to also be very clear, like it's not just all my effort. It's actually, like I mentioned at the very beginning, everybody on the call, CDM has a really, really good resource. Like I still remember I was like keep bugging Daniels to give me the feedback on my portfolio, on my resume, and I'm doing the same thing with every faculty I could find. So, you know, like and also I still remember you're able to just introduce me with different industry people in order to help me to find a job, et cetera, et cetera. And I still remember once I got the offer from Roadhouse, I was also in the middle of interviewing with Microsoft, and that was totally like the connection I got through CDM, through Daniels here. So that's definitely like please be aware of the resources around you and seek for the support in order to help you to move towards to the direction or the dreamland you want to be. Yeah. And so do we have, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, if anyone else has questions, this is a great opportunity to, I hate the saying, pick Ivy's brain, but she's right here.
Yeah, take advantage of the fact that I'm here.
Yeah, all right.
Okay, I guess no.
Yeah, if there's no questions, we don't have to force a question here, but I will say that, you know, I super appreciate the time and the fact that the talk was recorded. I also know that this is the day before the final presentations for all the students. So, and I also think you nailed everything on the head. That was probably the best explanation of the difference between UX, UI, in game development, and the most Canadian explanation I think I've ever seen too. Snow tires. That's going to stick with me for a while now. So
yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
That's cool.
All
Anyways, right. So yeah, so basically, good luck and see you guys in the industry.
Yeah. So I will. I'm just going to throw that one last thing. So now that you're in a hiring position, does EA, do they give art tests for would-be UI, UX designer? Like, what's your process in hiring somebody?
It's actually really depends on the team. Yeah, so at least the team I'm having right now is that sometimes they would actually throw out a test, but it's more depends on what kind of a skill set or what kind of a criteria we are trying to assess. Right? Sometimes having a test is the most efficient way to get those information out of the candidates, but sometimes we can just figure it out by simply talking with people or putting that kind of imaginary scenario. How would you handle that?
And I'm guessing their portfolios that you've already viewed, the online portfolios, probably.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, portfolio and resumes are the key to get to the door. Yeah. Because as a hiring manager, just be honest with everybody here, I only spend less than a minute to go through that. And I'm actually able to make a call whether I want to invite this person for an interview or not. So you can see that takes a lot, that need a lot of effort to how can you highlight and put the spotlight on your experience among other candidates within one level.
Especially as a UX UI designer, you're extra.
Exactly.
Yes, yeah, you have to, tell a great, concise story very quickly. You don't spend more than a minute on those online portfolios to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's actually
the choir here. I know this, but I'm like, people sometimes go super deep, have 50 projects, and I'm like, no, if you want to tell you got to get your message across quickly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's actually right at the point. Like when I was looking for like a UX designer or UI designer, I basically, if the portfolio is messy, I'm not even gonna it doesn't matter how glowing your experience are. Like, no, there's no way. Like if you cannot even create a good experience for your users, for your website, no, there's no way.
Yeah.
You can't be a good UX designer. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's and one other personal question. So how's it been for you with the work at home? Like what's the model for staying in touch with your team? Like,
Yeah. So
yeah.
basically, I'm heavily relying on Zoom. So everything like I'm dealing with this presentation is it's just a normal for me. And at the same time, like we're conducting lots of researchers, so we also is a new reality that how can we provide remote research, which is reduce the in-person, direct connection, like interactions. And on the top of that, which is also quite important as a manager, is right now is just a challenging moment for everybody, right? How can we create that kind of environment and team culture to support each other, and at the same time, to just give each other company, because we cannot do that in person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I think, a lot of us are dealing with that right now, obviously. And it's, I've appreciated still being able to have these guest talks, because again, this is a great platform for it, and you can do it from, comfort of, well, I'm virtual background here, but my second bedroom as well. So,
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's also grateful that we all work in digital industry, digital design industry. So it just makes this kind of work from home a lot easier compared to other industries.
Well, that's true. We've been saying that specifically with the MDM skills and mindset, right? I mean, there's no better students suited for this world than masters of digital media students. So we're digital, right out of the gate. Coming into this program, they have that interest and the toolkit and the abilities to collaborate with different disciplines and different technologies. So,
exactly.
Yeah, and we're seeing that with the success of our alumni network, and yeah, you represent that. So thank you so much.
Thank you. You're welcome. My pleasure. Right. Thank you for having me.
Oh, no problem. It was. We'll chat again about that other idea I was discussing, and but again, thank you. We will. Yes, there we go. We're getting some. I'm going to add my own virtual applause here too. So actually, I can do live applause too. So there you go. You get both.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ivy.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. All right, all. I'm going to end the call.
Yeah.
Enjoy the rest of your afternoons. Ivy, thank you so much again, and we'll stay in touch. All right.
Sounds good. Thank you. All. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.